Hi everybody, hope you're doing well. It's Kasia Dupuy from the Niagara-on-the-Lake Public Library for this week's NOTLLibrary Live Create with Kasia. I signed on a couple of minutes earlier. I'm trying to get something to work on an iPad so that I can see what I'm doing, and if comments come through, I can see what they are. But I don't know if it's gonna cooperate. So we'll just try this for now. I think it might be all right. But yes, if you're here joining us, welcome everybody. We are going to be making this lovely monochromatic mountain landscape. So we're just gonna wait a couple more minutes to make sure that we have everyone that's here. And if you are going to be creating with us, we have all of these different materials that you're going to be needing. I'll run through them quickly. I already mentioned one time already, I'm just in the middle of trying to get an iPad to kind of sync up with this so I can see comments as they come through. So I apologize for the kind of in-between right now. But like I keep mentioning every single week, I'm learning at this too. But yes, thank you for joining me, and thank you for all those people that even though I'm still learning, everyone's still tuning in, so I appreciate it. I'm hoping that you're enjoying the projects that we're making. And as usual, if you have any suggestions, requests, or anything like that, feel free to send me an email because I'm always looking for really cool things to paint. And I'd love to paint or teach you how to paint something that you really want to know how to paint. Yeah. So today, what we're going to be making is this monochromatic mountain landscape. And it's another monochromatic painting, so that means we're only going to be using 3 colors. So you're going to need black, white, and one other color. Just like before, when I made the sloth painting, and I think the llama, the demo that I made that you're seeing right now is blue, but I'm actually going to be using this kind of like in between magenta, violet, purple kind of color. Different, it'll turn out a little bit differently, but that's great because I want you to see that no matter what you have at home, it will turn out. If you only have black and white, that is totally fine too. You can just make this in shades of gray. Same with any of the other monochromatic paintings that I've made with you in the past. If you only have black and white, or like one other color in white or one other color in black, you can make these. It's a pretty cool thing to be able to paint stuff in monochromatic and just using a couple colors. So it is 4:02. Thank you for all that are tuning in right now. If you're only watching and you don't feel like painting, you don't have your stuff together today, it's Monday, I get it. Don't worry, we are going to be posting these videos on our YouTube channel as well as our IGTV channel. So don't worry if you're just here to watch, not to create today, that is totally okay too. Sometimes you need a cup of tea and a cookie and just something to watch, something to created before your eyes. So we will get started. So I'll run through materials really fast, and also I'll just do my regular housekeeping things. Our internet, as I mentioned the last couple of weeks, it is spotty. It's been great. Usually Mondays are pretty consistent, but if I do drop for any reason, I won't abandon you. I will make it back one way or another. Also, my dogs are home. My boys are home today, so if we have any interruptions, it'll just make it a little bit more interesting. Frankie was already in here once today asking, what are we doing? So that's a possibility because we're all home too, right? And then yes, if you're going to be joining us, you're going to need a protected surface. So I have a piece of watercolor paper underneath here. That's going to protect my drafting table. You're going to need something to paint on. So I'm using watercolor paper. You're going to need water to wash your brush. You're going to need a paper towel to dry your brush. You're going to need tape. Well, that's optional. It depends if you want to make a square or if you want to make it the whole size of your canvas. You don't have to use the tape. You are going to need something to draw with. So I'm using a pencil and I have an eraser. If you're working on something darker like cardboard or construction paper or something that's not white, you might want to use some chalk. Chalk is my favorite thing to draw with before I paint because you can paint right over it. You're also going to need some brushes. So I have my trusty 2 here. A round fine point brush and a flat square brush. It's a little bit on the smaller side. I'm most comfortable with it, so that's why I use it. If you only have something bigger, like this guy, all you have to do is just paint bigger, right? Scale your painting to the size of materials that you have. So this one's bigger, so I would paint something bigger. And of course, you're going to need paint. So all you're going to need is 3 colors. I already mentioned if you only have those two, we can still make it work. But I'm going to be using this, it's actually called quinacridone violet. So we'll usually call it Q violet. It's kind of a color in between like magenta and like a indigo kind of color. It's really cool. It morphs with the different colors. You can change it a lot. You're also going to need white and black. And if you are going to be using tape, I have a cloth here to make it less sticky. So when I was doing my intro, I thought it would be really tricky for me to be able to show you how I get the stickiness off the tape. I usually use my leg. Doesn't really work on the camera, so you're going to need a cloth if you're going to do that, okay? So, yeah, let's get started. Okay, so welcome again to this week's NOTLLibrary Live Create with Kasia. We're going to be making this lovely mountainous monochromatic masterpiece. Lots of M's today. Alliteration. It's awesome. So I'm going to move this over to the side. This is the size of paper that I'm going to be working on. Most paper comes in this size. It doesn't usually have a squareness or a square shape to it. But I'm going to be making a square with the tape. Okay? So if you're going to be making a square, you can do that. If you just want to have a nice border, just like how this one has around the edges, tape will do that for you. So get your tape ready. And you're going to kind of measure how long that will be. So my paper is about that long. So I'm going to rip a piece off. I'm going to put it on the cloth, just like that, to get some of the stickiness off. Peel it off like so, and line it up with the bottom of my paper, and just press it down, like so. Okay? I'm going to do that one more time. So I'm going to kind of measure. Actually, it's the same up there, so I can measure down here. Rip that off. Put it on the cloth, or you can use your pants or your shirt or your belly or anything you want that has like clothing or cloth over it. It just takes some of the stickiness off of the tape so it doesn't rip the paper. And sometimes it's just a gentle rip. Like I'll show you on this one that I made before. I didn't use the sticky, and can you kind of see the texture? It kind of pulled a little bit off. It's not the end of the world. You probably wouldn't have even noticed if I didn't point it out. But in case you want a nice smooth border, that is what you need to do. Just take some of the sticky away. So I'm going to do this edge here too, just like that. I'm going to measure, rip it, put it on the cloth, peel it off, and I'm going to line it up here. So I'm going to do this edge first, because from here I can make a square by cutting it off about here. Or if I wanted to do a big landscape style painting, like a rectangle, fill the rectangle, I can put another one here. So to make it like my demo, I'm actually going to make a square. So it just means that I'm going to lose a little bit of my canvas here. No big deal. I can use it for something else. It'd be a really nice like bookmark shape, or yeah, just make a little tiny mini painting. Yeah, there's always uses for those little tiny pieces. Don't throw away scraps, because you can always use them for something else. So we've created our border just like so. So the next thing we're going to do, and I'm actually just going to flip this way, so it's more in the center of the camera, the view. We're going to create our horizon line. So grab a pencil, and what we're going to do is make this magical little line that lives right close to the bottom of our painting surface. So we don't want it in the middle, because a lot of people, when they think of horizon line, it's right here. We're gonna put it right at the bottom, just so that we have all the space for the focal points, which are gonna be the mountains, okay? So take your pencil, and close to the bottom, really lightly create your horizon line. So that's the magic line, that this one little line creates the ground, and then creates the sky, right? Now I'm pressing a little bit harder than you should, just so you can see it on camera. When you're using pencil, you want to make sure you're pressing lightly, because if you press too hard, you won't be able to erase everything fully. And sometimes you can see those little lines come through on your paint. Also, I just moved my cloth out of the way. We don't really need it anymore. It was just for the tape. So you can move that out of the way if it's in your way. So we have our horizon line here. And what we're going to do next is create the first layer of mountains. So we're actually going to do the ones that are closest to us. So we're going to start here. I'm going to make this one short, maybe a little one up here, and then this one's really low. So that's my first layer. And this can look however you want, but you don't want it to be too high. You only want it to come up about that much. Okay? So the next thing is we're gonna do the exact same thing. We're gonna make a different size, and we're gonna make a layer that goes up top. Now watch this. I'm gonna make one that comes down. Okay, so that's my second row. It's behind this one. So this little bit here, you want to take your eraser and just erase it. And if you don't erase it all the way, that's okay. But we just want to make sure that we don't get confused when we're painting. Yeah, sorry for the shaky camera when I'm erasing. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do another layer. So I'm going to make this one look a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to start here. It's going to start up top. It's going to come down. It's going to have a sharp turn there. And it's going to go like that. So the only place I need to erase where it crosses the last layer is right here. And if you erase a little bit too much, that is totally okay too. You can always put it back. So I'm going to do 2 more layers, and these layers are going to get a little bit smaller because they're going to get further away from us, right? As things get further away, they're harder to see. They get smaller, they get lighter, we can't see as many details. So those sets of mountains are going to be our lightest ones. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start here. So it's going to start in between, and I'm going to go like this and do my next layer. And then let's see if you know where to erase. So I would erase here. Oh, no, whoops. Wrong one. See, look, even I get confused. So you can erase that one. You can erase that one. Or wherever you decide to put it. Wouldn't this one be a really cool like ski slope? It's like really fast. And then the last one I'm going to do is going to be here. That one's going to go up high. So that means anything on this layer, I'm going to erase. Oh, and I erased a little bit too much. Just like that. Okay. So I think that is how my mountain range is going to look today. You know what? I'm going to do one more layer. Why not? This one is going to be like a very far away mountain in the back. So I'm going to go like this. And then right here, and it's going to go down. So that means this will go away. This will go away. That will go away. Like so. Okay, so we've made our mountain range. Yours can look however you'd like it to look. It doesn't have to look anything like mine, but we are pretty much done our sketching. Yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do next, I'm just gonna get rid of this one a little bit more, is we're going to start mixing our colors, and we're going to start with the sky. So we're gonna work our way forward because we wanna work from lightest to darkest because it's really easy to cover light paint. It's often harder to cover dark paint, okay? So what we're gonna do is take your brush, and actually, you know what, I'll explain before I go, just in case you're still working on your mountains. What you're gonna do is take your brush and we're gonna make lighter colors and work towards darker colors. So the first one we're gonna do is with white. So move a bunch of white to a new spot, just like that. And you're going to take just a tiny, tiny little bit of your other color, your color that you're going to make your painting, and we're going to mix it in. It's going to be the really, really, really light. So that's not even light enough. I'm actually even going to go another scoop of white and make it super light. Now, this is what our mountain colors are going to look like. So to make it a little bit different, what I'd like you to do after you have your really light color here is take a teeny tiny little drop of black. See how small? So, so, so small. And mix that in. And it's gonna add a little bit of a grayness to it, kind of like the skies today. Because we want all the bright colors to be in the mountains, and this will kind of dull it down a bit so that it will look different. It'll look like a ground. It will actually match down here when we get to that point. So when you have this color, what you're gonna do is start to paint in the background, and you can even add a little bit more white as you do that first layer, because you want it really, really light. So just like so. Oh, there's Pinky. So you're gonna paint around all those mountains up there. Now this part here doesn't have to be smooth at all. It actually looks really cool if there's like these kind of interesting blotchy spots, because clouds aren't always smooth and calm looking, right? There's been some pretty nasty clouds lately. So we want to add some of that differentiation into the sky. No, there's Frankie. Frankie's my loud one. Sam is my nice quiet one. Usually don't hear Sam. Frankie though, he's my loud. Oh, there's Sam. Huh, spoke too soon. So you're just gonna be painting all up here to create the sky. Like so. So if you accidentally go on your mountains, not a big deal, right? Like I always say, we can always fix it. And you know what? Whenever you're doing paintings, if you make a mistake, the cool thing about this is now that you've learned, oh my goodness, how to do it, so you can do it again. Yeah. So there's our sky. Easy peasy, right? First layer done. So you're going to wash your brush and then dry it on your paper towel because we don't want it to be too wet or anything, or we don't want it to run into our next layer of mountains. But we're gonna do these guys. So we added a little bit of gray, a little bit of black to that to make it gray. We're gonna take some more here. So move some more over, some of your white. Take a little bit of your color that you're using. Or if you're making, hey guys. If you're making just a gray set of mountains, you can just add a little bit here. And you're gonna make a very light pink or whatever color. And you know what, make quite a bit of it because we can always use this in the next layers. Okay, 1 second. While you guys mix colors, I'm just gonna go shut that door. Okay, so hopefully you have that color mixed. We're going to do the back layer, so the very furthest away. So I have this light pink, and I made quite a bit of it, and all we're gonna do is start to fill in that mountain range. Now my little thing that I like to do, and actually I'll show you with 2 brushes, so if you have a smaller brush, one thing that helps me kind of paint so I can get into it a little bit more is I take my little brush and I do the outlines of the spot I wanna paint, kind of like how some of us were taught to color, right, when we're younger. You outline first, and then you can go inside. But why I really like to do this is because I spend all my energy, well, not all my energy, a lot of my energy outlining, and then after, I just kind of go crazy on the inside, just like that. Yep, so there's my first further back layer, and I'm gonna take my little brush, and I'm going to go here, and do this one. So that is my next layer here. So this painting is actually very, very simple. There's not too much like blending on your paper. There's a lot of mixing color, but it's basically only mixing one color. It's a lot of, it's very meditative. Yep, it is just mixing lighter to lighter or darker to darker and doing layer by layer. Okay, so there is our furthest back set of mountains. So the next one you're going to do is you're going to take some of this leftover paint that we have, this light pink, move it to a new spot. Guess what? Take a little bit more of your main color, mix that in, and we have our next range, just like this. Sorry guys, one more time. I'll be right back. Sorry everybody. So we have our next lightest color, and we're going to do this range here. So, oh, you know what? I'm gonna use my little brush and go here and do that layer. So my paint, I'm noticing here that it looks very similar when it's wet. When it dries, paint tends to be darker. So don't worry if it looks exactly the same when you're putting it on your surface. It will kind of change. Usually, most paints change. There's a few that I've painted with that haven't really changed. But, you know, you just go back and you put some more. And just like every other Monday, my paint's drying really, really quickly in this room, so if I have to add some water, that's why. Just like so. Okay, and then we have one more over here. Just like that. Oh, I wonder if that one looks very similar to you guys on the camera. So it looks very lighter, much lighter to me. I'm going to darken it up just a touch. And the cool thing about this painting too is that if you need to make more colors, if your colors don't exactly match, first of all, that's awesome. It makes your painting more interesting by adding in different layers of color. Also, mountains are not smooth and clean and gentle. I have never really been on a mountain, but from what I heard, they are, you know, I've seen pictures and stuff, and they're rugged and rocky. And the other thing, if you want to talk a little bit more technical, because it's so rocky, every single little part of the mountain would be hitting the light differently, right? There's not really any uniformity to it, so we don't have to be that steadfast in how we're approaching this. So we've done our second range, just like that. Guess what? You're gonna make a darker version of this color. So I don't really need any of that color anymore. I'm just gonna use what I've got. Just gonna make sure that it's darker than before. And we're gonna go on to our third range. See, I took a little bit too much white. That white is actually pretty strong. So I'm gonna take a little bit more of this color and make it darker. That's what I'm looking for. Maybe even a little bit more. Okay, and remember when you're using your paint, don't get too far out. You don't want to make a big puddle that dries really quick. You want to make sure that all the wet paint stays in the middle of your little mixing area to decrease the surface area, because more surface area means it's going to dry faster. And then you're going to start painting your next range. Now what happens if you accidentally make a mistake and you do the wrong range? You know what? That's okay. As long as you make the ones in front here darker, it'll be fine. It'll work out. And like I said, nature does some crazy stuff, and we don't always, light doesn't always hit the same thing the exact same way. So that's okay. Now this one I think is a little bit too straight. I liked it when I drew it. I'm not quite, in love with it right now. So I'm going to create another mountain just like that. And you know what? All I have to do is remember when I go to paint that I left it that way for a reason. And I made that one a little bumpy there. So, okay. So that's going to be part of this range here. I'm going to do my side here, up and over, up and down. Being a little light, because all that paint on my brush is mixing in. There seems to be a lot of this the lighter version of my color that gets stuck up here in the brush. And actually this part of the brush is called the ferrule of the brush, so where the metal touches. And it's great because if you're doing something like inky, you want some paint in there because it means you have a constant flow of paint. But sometimes the color, especially if you're mixing with the same brush, doesn't get mixed in and you get this variation, although we like variation, right? We want that stuff. So I'm not going to use this little brush right now. I'm just going to wash mine. If you're using yours, that is awesome. We also have to remember proper brush care. We don't want these little brushes of ours to dry out. So then we do the next layer. Pretty sure you guys would already know this step, right? We're getting darker every single time we start a new range. But I'm not quite the color of this paint yet. So I made a darker one. Now this is where I want to remember that. So I don't forget, I'm going to do that one first. Now you see how I press a little bit harder and you can see my pencil lines through it? What we could have done is as we go along, you erase your pencil lines, because as long as you have the one behind, you can get the next layer in. But just so I don't spend the whole time erasing in front of you, I just left it. And you know what? It adds another layer. It's kind of cool to see, painting or sketching remnants, how it came to be. Even in some master paintings, You can see some of their sketches below. And actually they have like x-rays that they've been doing on some paintings, and you can see different materials and what was underneath it, and if there's another painting hidden under there. I think that stuff is so interesting, not only because of like hidden treasure stuff, but also because they're just like us, and sometimes they paint stuff over top of other things that they don't like so much. I repaint over my canvases quite often. Either I get tired of it, or find a new way, or I run out of clean canvases and I just make something new over top of something old. You know what I always make sure makes me feel better, because I don't like parting with stuff that much. Certain people will know that. I like taking a picture of it. So if I paint over, I always have a picture for a reference if I'm really, really missing it. So I'm doing my 4th range in this case, just like so. Oh, it's very quiet all of a sudden. I should probably be worried, but I'm painting, so it's fine. So that one connects over here, just like so. So, see, there they are. Everything's good. They're not that quiet. So this is a very simple painting, has the same steps over and over. The main thing you have to remember is that you want to make your paint darker than the layer before it. And you want to try to remember where your layers are, where your mountain ranges are. And if you don't, that is totally okay. If you make a mistake, that's fine. I'm actually really liking this purple. It's very moody, like the day. So I'm just gonna add a bit of water. I'm gonna start my next range, which is darker. I'm gonna take a little bit more, but that bit of white in there, it's pretty strong. It still stands up quite a bit, like so. So I'm gonna make it pretty dark, and if that's not, no, it's dark enough. But if it's not dark enough, if you're finding that your paint is not getting the depth that you want, or the dark level, the level of darkness that you want, you can make it even darker by adding a teeny tiny bit of black. I do suggest making a slightly darker version of that color. See how I took some of that purple, that hue purple, and I mixed it with black, and then introducing some of that into your color. That way it's not too much too soon, right? Yeah, but see, it makes it a little bit darker, and it's just subtle, because we want to keep most of the dark version of our color for the ground and for the little house that we're gonna do. So you're gonna do your next mountain range with that darker version. Now let me see, does that look darker? Yeah, it looks darker. Maybe I'll add a little bit more of this. Make it even darker. Deepen the color a little bit. And you know what, if you are painting and you think it's gonna get a lot darker and it doesn't, don't worry, maybe there's not as much space between those two mountains, right? Maybe there is, you know, there might be miles between these ones, and there's only like, you know, meters between those, or kilometers between these ones, and meters between those. We are coming, I am live streaming from Canada, I can use metric system. So we'll add a little bit more of this. Oh, see how my paint's drying out, guys? Wow. I think on like a damp day, it would have, you know, not dried so quickly. Oh well. Keeps me on my toes. So hopefully your mountain ranges are going really well, and if you are watching this after, if you're not painting along with us or tuning in live, I would love to see what you do create afterwards. It's good for me to see what you make, because I can learn from that too. So if there's like a little step that I see that, you know, someone didn't, you know, didn't turn out the way, or if they let me know that they're not really happy with this part, I can look at that and be like, okay, well, I could have approached this differently or taught this differently. So it's a learning thing for me too. But really, these are all gonna look different, no matter how simple or how complicated the steps are, and I think that's really cool. I'm just taking a little bit of this dark that I made. I went a little bit darker on the last part here, then just adding it into my last mountain range there. Okay, So we're going to do the closest range, and that would be the darkest one to us. So this is a little bit too pure for me. So I'm going to take a little bit of this, move it into the black, the darker area that I was mixing. So I made like a darker Q purple. I'm gonna even make it a little bit darker. And that's gonna be the closest one to us, to me. Yeah, I'm gonna take a little bit more. Here we go. Well, I hope everyone had like a really good Mother's Day weekend. Yeah, the weather wasn't like super amazing, but it was nice to just kind of hang out at home, I guess. We've all been doing a lot of that lately, but we had a good weekend here. Hopefully you did too. We're excited for some warm weather again. I hope you guys are too. Okay, so I'm doing my deepest toned mountain range, which would be the closest one to us. And if you're watching how I'm mixing paint, as you see, my paint's drying out, so every once in a while I'm having to go back, remembering what colors I used. Ooh, that was a lot of black. And remixing. And yeah, every single time the tone is different, but that's okay because, like I mentioned before, who knows what part of this mountain range is being hit by light, where the shadows would be. Also, because I'm adding water to my paint, it kind of has like a watercolor-like quality. It's not exactly watercolor, if there's any purists watching, I know, but it has an idea of a watercolor to it. Probably because I'm working on watercolor paper. But acrylic dries really quickly by design, and watercolor paper is nice and thick, so it allows you a little bit more playtime. So I'm kind of breaking the rules. But I like painting on the thick paper. I don't know, I really like it. Okay, so we are just about done our mountains. I wonder if you guys finished faster than me. This one has taken me a while. I feel like I've been painting this one in front for a long time. Yeah, sometimes it goes that way. I'm gonna add a little bit more depth to this, like so. So you're gonna paint just to your horizon line. I'm sure you've seen, if you're watching, that's what I did. But just in case you went a little bit further, that's okay. Because we're gonna be doing even darker there. Okay, so we've done our mountain range. What we're gonna do next is paint the ground. So you're gonna wash your brush. You don't have to, we're basically gonna be using the same colors, but we're gonna be doing a really dark version of the color here. And actually we're gonna gray it, and then we're gonna do a little tiny black house with some windows. So I'm just gonna have a quick drink of my tea. And to mix this bottom color here, what you're gonna do is take some of your main color, move this brush out of the way, and I'm gonna add some water because you can see how thick my paint is. It's drying really quick. I'm just gonna mash it up to rehydrate it. Then you're gonna take some black, and you can take a little bit more than I've taken before, and mix that in. And if it's not enough, that's too close to that mountain range, guess what? I'm gonna take a little bit more and mix it in. It's okay if this is pretty dark. Now, well, you don't want it to be just black though, but we're not using straight black, so it should be okay. I'm gonna take a little bit more. Now, to make it similar to the sky and kind of remind us that it's part of the earth, that's not the focal point of our painting here, which is the mountains, I'm gonna take just a tiny little bit of white, tiny little bit. I might need a little bit more than that, but see how small that is? And mix it in. Oh yeah, I need some more. So it's gonna add a little gray tone to the ground. So it's like a gray version of your color. And what you're gonna do next is paint this bottom part. Oh yeah, that's good, nice and dark. Now, kind of like the sky, if it's dark, but not, you want it to be even a little bit darker, what you can do is take a little bit of black on your brush and kind of work it in just like that. And this horizon line can even have like some hills if you wanted to put on there. It's up to you. It's a really simple painting about exploring monochromatic colors. It's actually like a good color mixing exercise to see what kind of tones and actually, depths and that kind of thing you can make. There's not really much to, any tips or techniques. It's just practicing and getting it on there. Yeah. I'm gonna put a little bit of black. Just like so. Okay. Oh yeah, that looks deep enough. Perfect. And see how I'm going across with strokes? This makes the earth look like it's flat, okay? There's some variations in it, like some little tiny hills and dips. Like if you're walking in a field, there's those little tiny ones. But this way, if I'm painting this way right now, kind of contrasts to the way that the mountains are painted. Same thing. So all those points are pointing up, 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 up. This is going this way. So there's contrast, there's a visual contrast. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more black into that. And then you can wash your brush. You don't have to, because again, we're using the same color. But sometimes it's good to just clean the brush out, especially if you have a lot of paint up in here. Because even if you're painting, sometimes that part starts to dry and that can wreck your brush. So we've made the sky and the mountains and the ground. Now, one other quick thing, if you want to make the sky look a little bit more billowy, what you can do is take some straight white, or if your sky is pretty dark, well, it's up to you. You can add a little bit of your color, but you can kind of put a few little white spots. And see, on mine it's very subtle because my sky was very, very light. But any like dark spots like here, I can kind of put them through just like that. Just very subtle. Then you can wash your brush again. That's optional. You don't have to do that if you don't want. Okay, we're going to make a little tiny house. So if you want to use your fine point brush, you can. I'm probably gonna do a mixture of both because I like using this one to get that shape, but this one might be good for the roof. I'll see what I use. But basically, the house is super duper simple. I'm gonna do one right here for you on my palette before we go into. So can everyone see right here? Yeah. So what you're gonna do, wherever you decide your house to be, I'm gonna put mine right here. You're going to make a little square, just like that, and paint that in. We'll do the windows next. Then you're going to make a peak, like so, and paint that in. If you want to make a chimney, just do a little thing like that. And then after that dries, I'll show you how to put the windows in, okay? So I'm gonna do the exact same thing I just showed you on my palette, except I'm gonna do it on my painting. So I want the mountains to look really big, so I'm gonna make a little tiny house. If I wanted the mountains to look not so big, I might make my house bigger, maybe to the top of this part here. But I want the mountains to be huge. This is like a little tiny cabin, like that someone can escape to if they want some quiet time. So just like so. And it can sit just past your horizon line. So don't let it sit right on, although it could. There are some cabins, or there are some buildings that if you take a picture of them or draw them, they look like they're sitting right on the horizon line. But this one I'm gonna put a little bit further down, just like so. And I'm gonna make a little roof. So I do one side, then I do the other side, and then I paint it in, just like so. And see, I went a little bit past, no big deal. You can just kind of fix it up that way. And see how that was a little bit long? I don't really want it to look like a porch, so I'm just going to extend that here. There we go. And I'm gonna do a chimney on my little house. So just a straight little line, like so. And that's the beginning of our house. You can wash your brush when you're done. And you're just gonna need to give it a couple, not even a minute to dry, but you're going to make some little windows, and you can use straight up white if you want, but I find since we're making a monochromatic painting, let's not use straight up white. I have a little bit of this color we started with in the sky. So I am just gonna take a little bit with my fine point brush. If you're using a brush like this, practice on something first, but you can sometimes make little tiny squares with the chisel edge or you know, if I wet this and I just kind of squish it together, you can make little squares. Also, if you do not feel comfortable with the brushes you have to use to make tiny little details, wait for this to dry, and you can either glue tiny little squares on. You can use, if you have a metallic marker, if you have a white pencil crayon, you can totally use that too, or a white crayon. That will totally work with this as well, because all you're gonna do is make tiny little squares, just like this. And again, it's okay if they're not perfectly square, or if they start to turn a little bit gray, because light does funny things, and it's awesome to be able to be very forgiving in your paintings with these silly little rules that light likes to break. So I'm going to do 3 windows today. So just like so. Like maybe there's, you know, a curtain there. I made it darker though. But if I didn't feel like going back, oh look, I just made a darker curtain there. Okay. So that is our monochromatic mountain landscape today. Lots of color mixing, talking about monochromatic colors again. So it's one color made darker or lighter, the only color in this painting. And yeah, nice and simple. Same thing over and over again. Hopefully you guys had fun making it, or at least watching. Hopefully it was meditative while I made my monochromatic mountain masterpiece. After it dries, what you can do if you want that border look is use your scissors. And I'm just gonna cut this edge off here. I don't know if you can hear Evie's collar jingling. She's very smart. She must know that I just said, that's it. Because she wants to come in the room right now. So you're gonna cut off that extra part, and I just use the tape as a guide. So I went here. And once it's dry, carefully peel that tape away, and you have created, oh look, it's peeling there too. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You've created your border, just like so. Ta-da! All right. So thank you everybody for joining us today for this week's NOTLLibrary Live Create with Kasia. Hope you had fun. We are going to be I'm going to be announcing the next projects. Hopefully Saturday. I have a bunch lined up. I'm just trying to pick which one I feel like doing for next week. Again, if you have any comments or feedback or suggestions or requests that you'd like to paint, please let me know. Send me an email at kdupuy@notlpl.org. It is right here. It's often in the comments below. So kdupuy at notlpl.org, right there. Yep. So if you have any feedback or anything like that, I would love to hear it. Otherwise, hopefully you're staying warm and cozy on this gray Monday, and we will see you later this week. Oh, and also, if you've made the painting, we'd love to see them. Please tag at NOTLLibrary in your posts, and the video will be uploaded to IGTV as well as to our YouTube channel later today. Okay, have a great afternoon, everybody, and see you later, and thanks for joining us. Bye.